Welcome back to another Sculpt Session Sunday. I'm your host, Sash, and I am here with Mandizzle, who has all the shizzle.
Oh, hello.
And Mans and I, if you're new here, we are both bodybuilders, we are both coaches, we are competitors. Mandy is actually actively starting a prep. I am actively not, but I am starting a wedding prep, different from bodybuilding prep. But, anyways, the purpose of this podcast, as you saw with the title, is to talk about the real timeline of becoming a competitive bodybuilder and covering some of the grounds of like the phases that we go through, what it takes, because bodybuilding in a competitive like state to get ready for a show is not just a 12-week prep, which I feel like before in the past people could get away with a 12-week prep, but now preps are like 20, 24 weeks. But before that, it's years of making and building.
Yeah. I mean, you can't prep if you haven't built anything because bodybuilding.
Exactly, exactly. And like, I don't want anyone to get discouraged during this conversation because if your goal is just to step on stage, it's a bucket list thing, you just want to do it for the experience, put on a bikini, step on stage, get the fun, whatever, whatever the case is, that's fine, do it. But if you want to step on stage and be competitive and be successful in this sport and actually move places, which either or, it's totally fine. There's no judgment regardless. It takes a lot. And I just want you to buckle in if your goal is to be more successful in the sport, because there may be some moments here when you're like, oh shit, she's kind of coming at me right now, but this makes sense. I am very supportive of anyone that wants to get into competitive bodybuilding, but you just got to do it the right way because otherwise you will be the person that says that bodybuilding ruined your life when it didn't. It was the way that you did it. So, first things first is jumping into what people think is an appropriate timeline versus the reality. And man, I'm sure you've seen this many times before that like someone just gets into the gym, they start working out, they're like semi-consistent. They start maybe posting on social media that they're going to the gym, whatever. They start seeing all of these girls that look really good that also happen to be competitive bodybuilders, and they're like, cool, I want to jump into a prep. I'm gonna compete and I'm gonna place well.
Yeah. And I mean, great. I love the enthusiasm, but at the same time, like the reality is if like you said, if it's a goal, a bucket list goal, cool, whatever. Do you, boo? But if you want to be good at it, if you want to get a medal, if you want to get that like satisfaction of like during comparisons, you get moved to the center.
Yeah, that's a big feeling. That's like,
Oh, so good. Especially like when you like you're kind of like looking around you and you're like, oh yeah, it's coming. I know I'm gonna
yeah.
get moved. Which is such a good feeling. If you want that, yeah, you no, it's not gonna happen
It's not gonna
overnight.
happen
It's
in
not
a year.
no. No,
No.
no, no, no. The serious bodybuilders, unless you are like a genetic freak, you start the foundation process years before you step on stage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I personally didn't even know I was going to step on stage until I had been lifting and bodybuilding um, for 6 years, 7 years. And part of that was because I never thought it would even be possible for me, having been like bigger before and then like losing a bunch of weight. I just never, it was not in like the realm of possibility for me. But then once I started seeing that muscle, I was like, oh, maybe I could do this.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I love that you have that approach and you have that approach to share because I have the approach of everything that we're going to tell you not to do is what I did. I was in the gym. I was in the gym for probably a year and a half when I started getting curious about bodybuilding and like competing. And it was literally because I started getting more serious and my physique started looking nice. And I was like, ooh. And I wasn't as interested in it as other people were like, wow, you have a very nice frame. Like, have you considered competing? And I was like, no. Like, I don't even know how to track macros. Like that was where I was at. And I was on and off with the gym. And I will say, like, my upbringing, I was a very active kid. So like I was in sports, I was in dance, like so I kind of got like a little bit of a benefit in like being flexible. So like being flexible in the sense of when I stand in my pose, I can arch the shit out of my back. Being like it's easy for me to get told to follow protocol and follow it. Like I don't have a hard time following through with things. So, but I literally learned how to correctly track macros when I started a prep. And I can't even explain like I needed that because I needed to know that that's not the right way. And like that's why I'm so passionate about this is because I've made the mistakes. And I love hearing like how you've laid that foundation for yourself before you even started because that is so correct. Like that is so right. And I have spent every single prep and every single deficit and growth season since that first ever righting my wrongs essentially and like reverting things that I did wrong and I tanked my hormones and like I've done the wrong. So I'm wanting to share and spread light on doing it the right way because like learn from me, right? Like learn from my mistakes, don't make them yourself. And I'm sure that even with having a foundation, like there were still things like when you started a prep that you're like, ooh, like I could have done this a little bit better. I could have learned this a little bit better. I could have taken a better direction. Hence, every prep getting easier in a sense because you have more in your tool in your belt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would even argue that what you did wasn't necessarily the wrong way because we
No,
all
but
have
I
our
could have
own.
waited a little bit. I could have put on more muscle. I could have
I,
tracked macros
I,
for a couple
yeah,
months first.
I would call your way the hard way.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah, they're both hard, but to your credit though, you have always been athletic, so that definitely for the people listening out here that think that they just want to kind of jump in and learn on the fly, the things that you had in your favor were you were already an athletic kid and you had
Yeah.
an athletic background, like
I
you
was a
said,
very
even with dance
competitive
and the
kid.
posing, you had your personality in itself gave you a little bit of an edge while you're learning how to track macros because you're like, no, I'm going to get this fucking right the first time.
Exactly.
So that helped you, but I don't think most people are in that like mindset state yet, or maybe they just don't have, the foundational background you did.
Yeah.
Um,
And like even what you just said about I'm gonna get this right, I was so discouraged for that second when I realized that I'm not tracking macros correctly, that the second that I got them down, I ate the same, when I say the same exact thing every single day for my entire prep, I mean not one change. 130 grams of zucchini, 150 grams of turkey. I like remember this because I was so freaked out about messing up that when my previous coach would need to make adjustments in my macros, like I would send her my food and just tell her, like, please tell me where to cut because I was so freaked out that I was going to do it wrong versus like now I have so much more knowledge that my coach literally I didn't have a meal plan during my prep because she was like you are so good with your macros that I like she would look them over, make sure that everything was okay, that I'm hitting my macros and my micros, but like there was no question about is Sasha tracking her food correctly? Like she would just adjust the
oh,
macros and there was no there was no question. There was no question. But that was also this is a difference of 5 years. And that
yeah.
brings me to like the conversation about the phases and like the timeline of the bodybuilding is having that initial like foundational phase, that building phase. And I'm not just talking about building muscle, which we'll get to that. That's really freaking important because if you think that you're just gonna get stage lean and prep when you have no muscle, like you're just gonna get skinny and stringy and that's it. But the foundational phases is where you place the foundation in every aspect, in the muscles, in the macros, in the habits. I had such a hard time drinking water. Oh my God, I had such a hard time drinking water when I started. I couldn't do half a gallon. Now I'm literally exceeding a gallon of water a day like it's nothing. I had a hard time hitting steps. Like I had a hard time with these things. I did them anyways because there was no choice. Like in my head, I'm like, I was My body didn't know the difference between me having to hit my things and getting chased by a grizzly bear. Like that's where I was at. And
Mm,
I, like you said, like I feel like I did it the hard way, and like that's why I put so much energy into expressing how important it is to follow through these phases. The first one being that building phase. And to jump into like the muscle maturity, the you can't diet your way into a stage physique. I just want to hear like some of your experiences with that because I know that you had the time to like lay the foundation and then get ready for a show. So can you talk a little bit more about like what did that building phase look like for you? Like before you even did the pre-prep?
yeah, so I've talked about this before. It started because like I was getting divorced and I was like, what do I want for myself? And I was like, well, I want to be healthy and I want to look hot. So originally it started as like a weight loss journey.
Yeah.
And from there, it wasn't a pretty start. It was like, oh, I'm gonna eat some clementines instead of half a box of goldfish. They're
That's a
both
good swap.
orange.
That's a good
They're both
swap.
orange.
Oh, there you go.
But that's like the way that my brain works. So it wasn't perfect in the beginning and it wasn't clean all the way, but that those first few years were super important because that's when I started realizing the more clean foods that I incorporated, the better I felt, the more energy I had, the easier it was to sleep. Like even down to like breathing different, which I'm sure also was because I was losing body fat. Like it was
Yeah.
just easier on my cardiovascular system. But like that is kind of how I eased into it. And then I hired a coach. And that's where I kind of started learning more about macros and like being intentional about how to make a well-rounded meal and why we need the protein to fuel the muscles and why we need to have healthy fats in there so your hormones, can be made more adequately. And like I was a nurse at this point and I didn't know any of this shit. I was like, wait, that the food I'm eating impacts my hormones? I didn't know. They didn't teach us this shit in school.
Yeah. Which is
So I'm
nuts.
right.
No.
No, yeah. So like I'm right there with you guys that don't have medical jobs, or even if you do have a medical job, I didn't know. I
Yeah.
was learning on the fly. And then that's when my coach was like, okay, I want you to drink this much water and I want you to eat this much protein. And he would give me like a meal plan as far as I want you to eat this meal before your workout, your
Mm,
pre-workout meal, and I want you to eat a post-workout meal, the rest fill in your macros.
okay.
So I kind of got like a little bit of both. And I was like, oh, okay. That helped me ease into it too. Because I
Yeah.
wasn't having to make macros for a full day. Um, and then I ended up loving that meal. And then similar to you, like I just ate that for the next however many years. But starting out that way, I just feel like that set me up for way more success. And like when I did get into that pre-prep type of state of being before my first show ever, it was just that much easier for my then coach to be like, okay, here are your macros. Okay, here's your water. Okay, take
Here's
this
your
supplement.
workouts.
Yeah, because I didn't have as many questions.
Yeah.
Like I had questions, but I at that point I was like, oh, I understand why I'm
The
doing this.
concept.
And then that's what I found with clients too. If you understand why you're doing something, it makes it so much easier to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing that I really want to drive home throughout this entire podcast is the fact that your prep itself, like those 20 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever time frame that you are getting ready for the show, is not the time to learn these things. Is not. And I say that because I did that and I feel, not even I feel, I know that my body was holding on to so much more stress, so much more water. I was so much more stressed. I was it was bad. Like I did pretty damn good for my first show, hence why I continued competing. Because at first I was like, I don't know if this is a bucket list thing or like something that I really want to do. Like it was because I didn't find this sport myself. I just found an outlet in the gym. of working out and training, and then got introduced to this sport by people that just thought that I had it, and they saw something that I didn't at that time, and God bless them. But you can learn as you go in the prep, but it makes it so much more difficult. It makes it so much harder. It makes it so much more stressful. It makes like your prep should not be a ball of angst because you can't figure it out because you don't know what to do. And not knowing is not a problem. That's why we have these phases. That's why we go into first that building the foundations. Cool. You have the foundations down, you're training hard, you're eating, you're tracking food. Maybe it's not the perfect macros, whatever, but you're tracking food, you're doing the things, you're putting on muscle, you're growing. Okay. That doesn't mean we start the prep. That doesn't mean we rush into it. That means that now we go into the pre-prep, which the pre-prep could mean doing a real life bulk, like a real growth season, and then doing a mini cut to see how your body responds, and then reversing, and then going into a prep, unless you need to continue growing. Like, we forget the fact that rushing into competing too early is only hurting you because you are not stepping on stage with your best self physically, mentally. And I can say that when I stepped on stage the first time, like everything from my posing to the way that I felt to the way that I looked to my confidence on stage, like I I've never been to a bodybuilding show before I stepped on stage.
Crazy to me. That's another
I didn't
one.
even see what the stage looked like.
That should be a foundation too. If you guys want to do a bodybuilding show, go watch a bodybuilding show first.
Yeah.
Because
I watched
I
them
ha
on YouTube, but like it's different when you're in the room, and it's like this is I wasn't even gonna share this, but I have a video in my phone where I'm standing on stage and it's comparisons and I'm so nervous. My legs are shaking. Like I when I say shaking, I mean like visibly like I can't stop shaking. Like I was like seconds away from getting off stage if the judges didn't make us like turn back around. I was like on the verge of like a breakdown because I was so scared and nervous because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what comparisons entailed. I didn't know what the stage looked like. I didn't know what I looked like from the judge's point of view because I didn't even go to the um view area to see what the stage looks like from there. So like I literally didn't know what I looked like until I saw pictures. Like prejudging was a nightmare for me mentally. I was like, it was bad.
oh my God. And I'm sure with your following preps, it was not
Oh my
anywhere
God.
near that then.
No, like of course I was a little nervous. Of course there's like a little bit of like
Yeah.
shakes here and there. Like that's fine, but it's like there's a difference when you're a little bit nervous just because it's like your first time getting on stage in a while, or maybe because it's a really big lineup, or it's whatever the case is, but it's different when it's you're nervous because you didn't do something to get yourself ready. And I
Yeah.
knew that I didn't look as good as I wanted to. I knew that my posing wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I knew that I was under conditioned. I knew that I didn't have visible tie-ins. Like I knew these things because I wasn't prepared enough, because I didn't do the work. I did the work, but I didn't go through the phases.
Ooh. Ooh, okay. Can I also put something in here too that I don't think was really on the agenda?
Yeah,
And
please.
this, yeah, this isn't really, I want to preface this by saying this is more so for the people that are trying to rush into a prep, thinking it'll all just work itself out during prep, but you really do want to be competitive, but you're not giving yourself enough of a time, a runway or a timeline. I will be so serious with you guys. I've seen shows and I've been in shows where you can immediately tell who did not spend the time
Yeah.
building enough muscle, who did not spend the time being adherent to their protocol, you who did not spend the time cutting enough body fat. Like I have
Or just pose or put enough time into their suit or their makeup or their hair or anything.
the, right, right. But it's not even so much like not putting that time in as it is if you truly want to be competitive, just know that if that's how you show up, your fellow athletes are not going to respect you because you're not showing up competitive.
No.
Like it's fine. Again, if you want to do it as a bucket list item, people will be like, okay, good for you. Like, but also I'm not threatened because you don't have a good work ethic if this is how you're going to show up expecting that you're going to do well.
Yeah.
So like the work you do in that foundation phase is the work that's going to show up on stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I that I love that you just said that. And that is totally on the agenda. So like I love that. That is totally on the agenda. And it's your fellow competitors aren't going to respect you as much, but also you will look back and you won't respect yourself as much because you're going to know that that wasn't your best. And to be so bluntly honest, in my second to last show, which was May of last year, I was not as lean as we wanted me to be. And like, I can make a gazillion excuses. I quit my job a month before that and pursued like full-time coaching and content. We moved into a new apartment 6 weeks before that. We traveled 10 weeks before that, which was like, not a last minute plan, but like I knew that plan going into prep and I got really sick, so I couldn't like check off some of my boxes. I can make all of the excuses in the world, but I vividly remember when I was sitting backstage, there was a girl backstage there that I knew. She has an Instagram following, and we're like friends on social media now. But I remember when I saw her backstage, I just thought to myself, like, yeah, it's lights out for me. Like, if she's gonna be in my height class, because I didn't know what height class she was in, I was like, if we're in the same height class, like, I'm gonna be on the end. There's no way I'm creeping up to the middle. And I truly believe that what got me to even second and third place, which is what I got at that show, which is not bad in comparison to like the lineup that we had and like where I was at. I truly swear and believe that the reason why I got the placement that I did was because of my presentation, not because of my physique. Like I was lean, but I didn't have tie-ins. Like I didn't have
Yeah.
visible tie-ins. I had to hold my vacuum like you don't understand to keep like my core control was not the best. It was better, but it wasn't the best. And I remember when I got off that stage, like I wasn't upset at as much at the placement because I mean I did want to get nationally qualified and I didn't, but I was more disappointed because I knew from the moment that I did my morning check-ins with my coach that I wasn't where I wanted to be. And then when I saw the other girls, I was like, holy fucking shit. She doesn't even have to think and like she's like ripped and I'm over here like fighting for my life to keep a good core control. And after that, we pushed for another 6 weeks and then when I did that next show, I was like, yeah, I'm proud of this fucking package because I know that there was not a single stone left unturned. Nothing came in my way. No, it was 5 weeks after, but nevertheless, it was different because even though there, like, I still didn't take first or overall, I got nationally qualified. I placed way better, but I felt better and I was proud of what I brought. So that's a completely different feeling as when you know that you've actually brought what is worth bringing when you want to be competitive versus not. And
Yes.
you know that, like when you are a competitor, you know when you're bringing your best and when you're not. And if you think you're bringing your best, but like you're really not, and you're just trying to lie to yourself, it comes out when you're on stage. It comes out when
Oh,
you're on stage.
truly.
So,
Truly. And I mean, in vice like versa, well, not I guess vice versa, but also like in my experience, like for my first couple shows, I know that I did well, like I placed the way I placed because of my posing and not my physique, which is crazy. So like my first show, I did really well. I did second and third, I want to say. Um, and wasn't lean enough. Definitely was not lean enough. Did not have my tie-ins present, but you know, it's all about who shows up that day.
this is true.
So I was like, hell yeah, I'm feeling good. Now we pushed for another 4 weeks, went to that show. That show was much bigger. So instead of having like 15, 16, 17, 18 girls in my class, we had like 30 plus. And I was so depleted. My hormones were tanked. I was losing muscle mass. So I know it was not my physique. The only thing that saved my ass was that I was posing better than some of the girls that actually looked better than I
Yeah,
did.
literally same.
Yeah.
Literally
And I
same. That's what
still,
saved me.
right. And I still got fifth. But then, like, I also, there were a bunch of influencers, bodybuilder influencers in my show that are enhanced, and I was not at the time. So I was still very happy that I took
Yeah,
fifth
literally same.
against
Same.
that. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm natural and my posing was good enough to get me in the top five.
Yeah, the girl that got first and the girl that got third that were next to me in my last show that I did were visibly enhanced, which nothing wrong with that at all. But I wasn't. I was natural. And it felt really good because I was like, I'm standing between two girls who are
Mhm.
enhanced and I got second. Like that felt really nice. That felt really good. But again, it also felt really good because I knew that I dug so deep. Like there was no better than that. And one thing I will say is like when you want to be competitive, you will set goals for yourself. Like for example, my goal in my next prep is I'm not getting on stage unless I have tie-ins. Like there is no show unless I have tie-ins the way that they want. Like not like super hard ones, but like the way that the judges want to see. It's not happening. Like I've had this conversation with my coach. Like it's not happening if we're not conditioned, if we don't have that kind of muscle, it's not happening. But that just brings me to I feel like we went off on tangents that were very, very beneficial, and I love it. I love it. The tangent queens, this is what I wanted out of this conversation, but I do want to drive the point with the phases of, we talked about the foundation, the pre-prep, which we kind of covered a little bit, but like this is where you either have to grow properly, so macros,
Huge.
sleep, stabilizing hormones, making sure you have good hormones, having a good routine, having adherence, right? Like if you cannot have adherence and follow your protocol to a T when you are in a pre-prep, you got nothing in a prep. You got nothing. I'm sorry, but if your discipline only turns on when you start a bodybuilding prep, you don't have discipline. You don't.
Nope.
You don't.
GTFOH.
Yeah, exactly. 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 And that also leads me to my point of people who want to jump into a prep who don't have, I'm getting hot with this conversation. I'm like, ooh, I'm heating up.
Passion.
The people that you want to jump into a prep before having those things down, right? And like doing a pre-prep. It's like if you start a prep already under eating and overdoing cardio, where are you going to go from there? Where are you going to go from there? Because I have seen not once, multiple times, girls will come to me, oh, I'm interested in bodybuilding prep. I want to start a prep. I want to compete. Okay, cool. Are you tracking macros? Yeah, loosely. Okay, what are you eating? 1,600 calories, and I'm doing 35 minutes of cardio a day.
Not ready. Red flag.
How are we going to start a prep there? When you are already doing that and you're not losing weight, that is a recipe for 1,000 calorie prep with multiple hours of cardio. And that's where I was at. Like my first ever prep, because I didn't have a growth phase, I didn't have a maintenance phase, I didn't have a true calorie tracking phase. I started the prep at like, I truly think I was at maybe 16 or 1,700 calories. And like immediately I was out like 30 minutes of cardio or 35 minutes of cardio 5 times a week. At the end of my prep, I was doing over an hour of cardio 6 or 7 times a week and eating sub 1,100 calories. My only carbs came from like the asparagus and zucchini that I ate and maybe some raspberries and maybe some blueberries. And it's like that was terrible. That was horrible. I didn't have a period for 9 months. If you've never heard me talk about this before, I literally lost my period 1 month into prep. Do you know how terrible that is? 1 month into a deficit, you lose your
That's
period.
it's not a great sign. I think I had about 4 months into it before I lost my period like right before my first show.
Same. I
Yeah.
my my last year's prep, I lost my period. I stopped having a period, and it wasn't even I stopped having it. I just didn't have as much of a period. I
Mhm.
had it only for a day, about 2 months out from my show, and then I didn't have it a month out from my show, and then I got it back a month after I finished competing. So in total, I like this is night and day. There was no
Mhm.
question about like my hormones being in a way better place, my body adjusting a lot better. And you might think like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It is. It is
It's a huge
because
deal.
that took me almost 2 years to come back from those 9 months of not having a period and being in a prep when I had no business competing or prepping.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was about to say too, is, if you jump into a prep and those things aren't in place and you already aren't losing weight and you're only eating 1,600 calories and you're already doing 35 minutes of cardio, the leaner, quote unquote, you get because we're forced to cut your calories so low and like ride cardio so high, you impact your hormones to a point where most people are spending 2+ years just to get some normality back as their baseline health. And
Yeah.
it's like if you it's you're going to compete sooner if you invest the time up front to lay the foundation and go through these phases than if you just jump into it and now you have to recoup all the shit that you did wrong and spend 2 to 3 years getting your hormones right before you can even start rebuilding adequately.
Yeah, not even a prep, just rebuilding.
Yeah. And so you're really looking at like, if you jump into it, then you're going to spend theoretically 3 to 5 years before you can really bring a good, solid, healthy, competitive package again.
Yeah,
Is crazy.
it's nuts. It's
So
nuts.
don't do it because then you got to hire me and
Which is not
we're
a
going to
bad
cry.
thing.
We're going
That's
to
not a
laugh.
problem. That's not a problem, but like no, truly, like
Yeah.
you will spend so much more time healing when to do it right to begin
Mhm.
with.
It's
Up
faster.
front feels like it's longer because you don't get on stage immediately, but I'm sorry, if you're coming to me and are not, you don't have the foundation, you don't have the macros, you don't have the baseline down, and you want to compete in 6 months, that's really freaking hard. That's
Yeah.
really freaking hard. And I say that because I've done that. And that brings me to the third phase, which is the one that people glorify, and that's the prep. It's glorified, but it's not understood because what prep is an unveiling of everything that was done before. So it's like imagine, I don't know, I just thought of this analogy and I feel like it's gonna make sense if I execute the correct explanation, but imagine you're like at a Michelin star restaurant or like presenting a dish, right? And you know how they like have that cover that like uncovers? You spend all of this time hyping up what's underneath to uncover. And then when you uncover, it's empty. There's nothing because it wasn't built, it wasn't put together in the kitchen. So it's like you can't uncover what wasn't built, what wasn't done, because it's going to be disappointing. There's not going to be the result that you're looking for. And in a prep, that's what happens. It's not where the physique is built, it's where it's revealed. It's where all of your hard work that you've done, I hesitate to say for months, for years, is revealed. And if like you're new into it and you're looking at the people at the top of the food chain in this bodybuilding world, if you're looking at the top of the top, which you should be, they should be your inspiration. Laura Lee, Amy, Ashlyn, literally the Olympians, the champions, the inspiration. Do you know how long they've been doing this? Decade, decade, 10 years, if not longer. You think you're gonna jump into this and have that in a year, in 2 years? I don't want to burst
No.
your bubble, but I'm gonna burst your bubble.
Well, and it's like they all start somewhere and they had to start at this foundation step
Exactly.
phase one, just like everyone else. Again,
Exactly.
barring some genetic anomalies, because I feel like Ashlyn is one of those just genetic anomalies,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like the majority of it, I mean, like Laura Lee is phenomenal, but she's also on the taller side. So she had to work really, really hard
Really
to
hard.
get what we all see in that top three placing consistently.
Yeah.
That do the work, ladies. Do the work.
It
Oh my God, I thought of an analogy for your like dish. It'd be like you lift it up and you're like expecting to see filet mignon, but then instead you just see like a really thin flank steak because you didn't build the muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually good. That's you made it better. Thank you.
Okay.
No, you made it better.
Shoot.
Seriously. Seriously. But like that prep is truly just the uncovering. Yes, you're losing weight. Yes, it requires mental discipline. Yes, there's adjustments. Yes, there's so much that happens, so much excitement, but it's not when you learn how to do these things. And if you are learning how to do these things, it makes it harder because then you're going to disappoint yourself because you're going to make mistakes. Like the less mistakes that you can make in prep because you've made them before, the smoother your prep is going to be. And that's
Yeah.
really what it is. And then the not the last phase because I truly believe that there is no last phase because after phase four, then there's the phase five, which is the reverse. But like the phase that people are still looking forward to is show day. And not to make this smaller than it is, but show day is a day. It is one singular day. It is less than 12 hours that you're gonna have on stage, glammed up, suited up, this, that, and the third. You typically prejudging, you're there for about an hour. Finals, you're there for about an hour. You might not get more than 30 minutes of stage time. Like, and again, I hear people sometimes making the argument of, oh, you're doing all of this work just for one single day. And it's like, I'm not doing it for that day, but that day is the celebration of the work that I've done. And that's what show day is. Show day is the celebration. It's not the process. It's the one day that shows all of the work that you've done for years or however long you've been doing it. And you want to bring your best because you want to be proud of that day. You want to look back at that day and know that you brought your best. And then after the show is a part that a lot of people miss that every single one of these phases deserves its own podcast because I feel like we just have a lot to talk about, but it's the reverse. And this is the most important one for longevity, for a potential future in this sport, because how you exit a prep matters more than how you enter it. Because not how you enter the prep itself, but how you enter the sport, because you could enter it with not knowing much and learn and then get into the prep. But if you exit it and that's it. Like you exit the prep, you exit the sport, you don't reverse, you don't get your body back to a good place. Mandy, you could take away with what that does.
I promise you, I've seen more people not have a reverse plan. And this is really like the prep itself is hard on your hormones. And then the reverse, if you don't do it correctly, that's really what's going to be adding on that 3 to 5 years of having to recoup. Because if you don't have a reverse plan and show day's over and the next morning you wake up and you're like, well, I've just been starving the last, X amount of weeks. I'm going to just go back to eating how I used to eat. You're going to F your hormones up so bad. You are
So
going to
bad.
gain so much rebound body fat, not muscle. Even if you're still lifting, your body doesn't care. You need to ease out of the prep. And that doesn't mean, hey, I've been eating, 1,300 calories. Now I'm going to eat 2,000. No. Some people can bump their calories a little bit more aggressive, but again, this is why you hire a coach that gets to know your body. But the majority of people are going to need a step up in
Low
calories
increment.
slowly. Yeah. So this is the one phase, like, yeah, everyone glorifies phase four, like show day. Oh yeah. And it is fun and it should be celebrated. But arguably, I would say it's like a tie for me between phase one and phase five being most important.
Same.
Yeah.
How you start and how you finish.
Yeah, definitely. If you can't revert, like, just clarify your reverse plan before you even start the prep, to be
Yeah.
honest, because there's also too many people, like novice bodybuilders, that jump in And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do the show, I'm gonna do it. And then they drop their coach, or the coach just like drops them right after show day. And it's like, this is go time now, day after show. This is like how you
After the
come out
show
of
is when
that.
the work begins,
Yeah. Oh,
another level of the work.
I'm so I'm so glad you did this topic. It's so good. And I'm actually like excited to do my reverse this time because I mean, I've talked about it before. Last time I really don't have a fucking reverse. And this is why it's been 3 years since I've stepped on stage.
Same.
But
No, I
yeah,
will say I'm with you on that. The first time I also didn't have much of a reverse. And this last reverse that I had, granted, there were things that I had planned in advance. So like my breast augmentation was 3 weeks after my show, which could have done that a smarter way, but then I was traveling to Europe shortly, like 6 weeks after that. But even with that, I nailed my reverse so well. Like in the last almost 10 months since I've competed, there was no unintentional weight gain. There was no unintentional fat gain. There was nothing that was not controlled or wasn't intentional. Like even when I was traveling in Europe for 3 weeks and I wasn't tracking and I was drinking and everything. Like at that point, my body was already in a place that when I came back from Europe, I was 3 pounds over in 3 weeks of eating croissants and drinking Aperol spritz and sandwiches, 2 sandwiches a day because they were so good. Like I also just already had the knowledge of the difference between hunger, hormone cues, like hunger cues versus hormones and like everything. So yeah, the reverse, you guys, how you finish and what you continue after that, even if this is a bucket list thing, like you have to reverse and get to a baseline. And then if you want to leave your coach and never compete again and never do it again, give them 6 to 8 weeks after your show, at least, to get you into a good place, at least, please.
yeah.
And
And
truly,
again, that's a conversation before you prep.
before, yeah, like what does that plan look like? And if your coach doesn't have that plan, you find a new coach. You find a new coach. So, sorry, yawning. But I'm gonna cut that out. But I don't know why I just had like such a big yawn. Oh. But overall, I hope if you got anything out of this, it is to not rush your timeline. If you are trying to push on a timeline because you have a birthday coming up and you want to compete before your birthday, or you have a vacation coming up and you want to compete before the vacation, or you, whatever the case is, like you will be fighting against time for no reason. For no reason, because guess what? There is a show almost every single week starting in the month of March up until the end of December. So if you can't compete this year, next year is right there. And like in the bodybuilding world, a year is really not that much time. It's really not that much time. So don't rush the timeline. You don't need to compete to validate your progress, which I feel like is a really big thing that people do, is to compete to like show that they're all that. It's like, let's have some better reasons for that. Respect the phases of the sport and respect yourself enough to do it the right way where you won't harm your body because bodybuilding is a long game and the best physiques that you see, the first place winners, the overall champs took years of their life and poured it into this. So, not to be corny or anything, but like you don't rush greatness. You build it and it takes time. So take that time because time's gonna pass anyways.
Get that. What a
Yeah.
little, such a warming, heartfelt exit line. I
I
love
know
it.
because I feel like this entire podcast I've been like, you're gonna fuck up if you do this. Like I feel like it's been and like I really hope that no one takes this in a calling you out in a bad way. Like it truly is like big sister looking out for you kind of advice because oh God, I wish that you and I were friends when I like close friends when I first was considering competing and I was first dibbling and dabbling in it because I wish I had someone who grabbed my hand and said, Sasha, not yet. Not yet. I'm grateful for the journey and everything that it's taught me, but maybe everything happened so that I could be sitting in this chair right now and having this conversation with you and sharing my experiences. I truly do believe that because otherwise we wouldn't be here. Like I believe that that was the purpose for me fucking up somewhere and like taking the hard way and doing the hard things in when it was not even necessary. But I hope to be that person to anyone who's listening or any of my future clients who grabs you by the hand and says, "Not yet." Like you might hate me for it right now and you might not be too happy with me, but I have your best intentions at heart and like you're not there right now. So, I hope no one takes this in a negative way. If you do, you do. I'm sorry. I apologize, but everything I said, I mean it. So,
Out of love.
out of love, all the love. I only want to see people succeeding in this sport. So,
Yeah. Yeah, more competition for us. That's what we're doing.
yeah.
Give us something to fight for. Like, you show up really, really good so we can be like, hell yeah, if I lose to that girl, I'm happy. She deserved it. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be bummed, of course, but like I want to lose to somebody that did the work.
Exactly.
If I'm gonna lose, but we're
Ex-
not gonna lose. We're gonna
no,
win this season, but still.
exactly. I love that. I love that. And I feel like that's a really good place to wrap up. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you got some jumps from here and keep an eye out for a possible mini series of these phases and on competing. Of course, if you have any questions, please comment them down below. I'm gonna have our Instagrams linked down in the description. So if you want to connect with us, ask some questions. If you don't want to comment them or a little shy or just like whatever, want to talk about it, we're here for it. Sculpt Session Sunday podcasts are going to be every Sunday. Hop on over to Mandy's to listen to Unfiltered and Functional, which come out every Monday. And we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.